So my name is Ethan Newlin. I am a social studies teacher at the Washington Heights Expeditionary Learning School in Washington Heights, New York City, which is in Manhattan. And I did Fun for Teachers the summer of 2010, so that was 1 year ago. And my Fun for Teachers proposal was with a colleague of mine who she and I decided to research genocide, and we had been thinking about different instances of where there's still living memory of people who had lived through genocide. Genocide's part of our social studies curriculum, and we wanted the students to get a more hands-on, real-life, in-depth kind of knowledge about how genocide affects people, because it's something very difficult for most people to conceptualize. So what we actually did once we were funded was we traveled to Bangladesh, which is just east of India, and researched and interviewed people there about their liberation war, which happened in 1971. So we were in the capital city for 2 weeks. We partnered with a museum there that helped us get translators, travel around the city, and they helped us find people to interview, and we knew some people we wanted to interview as well. And so we sat down with people, and the grant also gave us money to buy some video camera equipment to videotape our interviews. And we sat down with people and interviewed them about what their life was like before, during, and after the war. And the questions we used and asked were developed by someone who's doing an oral history genocide project in the United States with one of the other partnerships that we had. As far as how it changed me as a teacher, it was really amazing to go to a part of the world that I really knew nothing about, and that I find that most people don't know anything about. I feel like Bangladesh is a country that people know like in passing. They might know its name, they might know it's in Asia, they might know simple things about it like that, but they don't know that genocide occurred there, comparable to what happened in Cambodia and Rwanda and in Eastern Europe in the 90s. And they don't know its relationship to Pakistan and to modern day India. So it's very critical knowledge. So as a person, it greatly impacted me in my knowledge base. And also as a person, it really opened my eyes to some of the people that I saw and worked with while I was over there. So while we were conducting these interviews, it was extremely inspiring because the man who's the director of the museum there, his whole life, and he makes a living about this in a third world country, a very comfortable living, is human rights and tolerance and spreading not just the knowledge of the atrocities that happened in his country, but also helping other museum sites and things like that in Asia who commemorate atrocities that have happened in the past. And it was amazing to see people's entire lives dedicated to tolerance and human rights and justice in a variety of different fields. And so it was very inspiring because I realized how narrow the focus of my life had been to that point. And I saw people that doing so much more with less in that country and being very grateful for whatever they could get accomplished. So when I came back with my students, we used the materials on a couple different grade levels at our middle school. And I taught a unit to the students. I taught them background knowledge about ancient India and about contemporary India as a way so that they could have a cultural and historical frame of reference for what happened. And then I directly taught the genocide as a short unit in a larger unit encompassing human rights at the end of my school year. And as a model for the students to follow about what real life historical research can look like. It's not just archaeology. Part of it is almost a journalistic kind of expertise and knowledge base. And so it was amazing for them to know that, you know, you could go out and interview people about things, and that's one way to record history. It made it so that it wasn't just textbooks or old photographs or interpretive drawings of ancient past. Sometimes it was really going out and recording people's experiences. And after that, I had tasked the students with doing their own oral history research. I teach in a community that is, the vast majority of the students are Dominican, and their families are immigrants from the Dominican Republic. And a lot of people don't know the history of the Dominican Republic. There was a ruthless dictator that was in charge of the country for almost 30 years. And I had the students, I said, go out in your community, because they're there, find people who lived in the Dominican Republic at that time and bring them in, and we're going to continue learning about human rights, but we're going to transition from genocide to tyranny and dictatorships and ruthless governments. And we had speakers come in that were handpicked by the students, family members, people in the community that they knew. And just like when I had gone to another country and did this, it was amazing to see that they were able to find people that were more than willing to talk about this. Even though the main speaker we had come in did not speak very much English whatsoever. We had a person on staff translating for us, and so we had the entire grade of students in my 6th grade, almost all 90 kids in one room. They were sitting on tables and everything, and we interviewed this man for over an hour about his experiences there. And it was very similar to how I had structured my questions in overseas. You know, what was you like before, during, and after? And the impact on the students was incredible. You know, every time that we talked about history, they now had this understanding of history as being far more dynamic and relevant and close to home in many different ways. And they could start to see connections between what had happened 40 years ago in one side of the world in Bangladesh to what had happened 40 or 50 years ago in the completely other hemisphere of the world, in an island where most of their families were from. And seeing the students make those kinds of connections and distinctions, and really appreciating and understanding the value of primary sources. And the students themselves, you know, talked about wanting to continue the learning over the summer and talking to people in their community and understanding more about it. And had a very powerful effect on the students. And as far as myself professionally, it very much opened my eye to the realm of possibilities of things that you could do being a teacher, that it's not such a narrow focus and there's many other possibilities out there to do. And the beauty about Fun for Teachers is that all of those things that you might think might have an impact, or that you wish that you could do, or experiences that you wish you could have, are possible, so long as you don't need millions of dollars. And there's millions of things you could do given the funds. And basically all Fun for Teachers asks is that you explain exactly what you want to do and how you think it's going to either improve you as a person, improve you as a teacher, or you're going to go out and get something or have an experience that you're going to be able to bring back to the classroom. And so not only was I able to use all these materials as teaching tools, which is very powerful, they were able to watch the videos on computers in my classroom and watch the actual interviews that we sat and did. And there's a huge connection between when the students see that, you know, historical materials aren't just made out in space, they're made by people. And so there's a very deep connection between me and my students when they, you know, they almost didn't believe me, like, you did this? Like, you actually went and did this? Like, you made these videos? You're the person that went out and did this? And it empowered them and made their task of going out and finding people in the community right around them much easier. And so that gave them the encouragement to know that it was a difficult homework assignment, basically, but it was extremely doable. And so the beauty about Fun for Teachers is that as an organization, they understand that they can't dictate what's going to make teachers grow, or what every single school district or school or teacher or group of students really needs. They're there to provide the funds so that, because most of the teachers have brilliant ideas. People have brilliant ideas for what they want to do in their classroom and going to be able to bring it back. They just lack certain things, and usually that's a plan, and usually it's funding. So if you know the funding's going to be there, make a plan and think about, if I had this much money and I had, you know, a couple months in the summer to do something amazing to go out and get, or have an experience to bring back to the classroom, it's definitely within reach. You just have to make your case for it, and they're there to support you. And so ever since having those experiences and interviewing people and having such a wildly different take on life, and listening to people who'd gone through something so intense as genocide and war, is very humbling, and humbling to understand that I had that gap in my understanding. I didn't know anything about this genocide before I did it, but there's making me realize now also that there's gaps everywhere in my knowledge. There's certain parts of the world that I don't know about. There's certain things that are going on in the world right now that I don't know about, in the news, and all of it could be related to human rights. So not only was it already well worth the time, well beyond the impact that it's had, and I'm able to share the materials with all the other teachers in my school and talk about it, and encourage the other teachers to go out and find resources in the community around them as well. It's also inspired me to think about what are the other gaps that I have in my knowledge that I can fill myself, and therefore bring back to my students.